Good morning. It's Friday, January 19th. Last day before the weekend. This morning, I was reading Exodus 23 through 26. And the verse I wanted to share on was chapter 25, two verses. Chapter 25, verse 2, and then verse 8. Verse 2 says, "From every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive the contribution for me." Moses was up on the mountain with the Lord, and the Lord was getting ready to give him instructions to build the temple, the tabernacle. And so he told him, he says, "From every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive the contribution for me." God wasn't telling him to go down and get so much stuff from every person. He was instructing them what they would need for the tabernacle, the materials that they would need. He said, but just go down, and every man whose heart moves him, every man who wants to give, every man who has it in his heart to love God and to want a place where they can worship God, where they can build a tabernacle for God. Every man who has a heart to do that, who has a desire to do that. He says, that's I only want their gifts. I'm not interested in the gifts of someone who is doing it so he looks good to others. I don't want the gifts of someone that I have to take that from, demand it from. God owns everything. He says, I just want the gift from the man whose heart wants to give. That's his instructions to Moses. Then down in verse 18, it says, "And let them make me a sanctuary, that I may dwell in their midst." Think about that for a minute. That's mind-blowing. God says, go down, and every man whose heart wants to give for this sanctuary, I want from them. I'll receive from them. Only the ones who really want me to be there, who really want a sanctuary, whose heart longs for that. I'll take the gift from them. And then he explains what it's really going to be. He says, "And let them make me a sanctuary." A sanctuary for God? That's mind-blowing. God's everywhere. He made everything we can see. There is no end to him. There is no end to what he's created. We can't even see that far out in space. He's everywhere. As far as we can see, he surrounds us. Paul talks about how we have our being in him. He's above me, he's behind me, he's below me, he's next to me, he's everywhere. I cannot go anywhere. David talked about how he could even go down to hell and he would find God there. There was no way to escape God or his love. And yet God says, "And let them make me a sanctuary." Humans, sinful man, created beings would take things that they brought from their heart and make a home for God, a sanctuary. Sanctuary means a place where you're safe. God said, make me a sanctuary. Why? That I may dwell in their midst. That I may dwell in the middle of these people. That I may have a place to fellowship with them. That I might have a place to talk to them. That I might have a place to be with them. Slaves that he delivered from Egypt. He fought for them and delivered them from the most powerful nation on the planet at that time And they were simply slaves. 1.5 million of them about. And he's leading them to the desert. He says, I want to make my home with them. I want you to make me a home, but make sure it comes from your heart. Mind-blowing. But there's a picture here for those of us in the New Testament. Jesus says, anyone who will, anyone who desires, come to me. In the book of Revelation, he says, I'm standing, I'm knocking. And anyone who will open their heart, anyone who has a heart for God, anyone who would really like to know God, he's not begging. He's not even trying to get into the hearts of the people who do not want him. But he says, but if there's anyone, God himself that made everything, says, if I'm standing here knocking, I would like to come into your life. I would like to fellowship with you. And if you will open up your heart, I will come in. We are the sanctuary today. The New Testament tells us we are the building of God. We are the temple of God. We are the sanctuary. God today, 2024, the God who lives everywhere, still calls out to men and says, if you open your heart, I will make it my sanctuary. And you and me will fellowship there, break bread there, eat there, feast there. He says he'll come in and sup with us. He'll lead and guide us. He'll write his words on our hearts. He'll be a father to us. If we simply open our hearts, our very being becomes his sanctuary. Mind-blowing that God would love us that much. That God would hunger to be with men that much. That God would want to take you and me, who are slaves to sin, and he set us free by dying on the cross. And he would choose to come and live inside of these bodies and live with our heart, his spirit with our spirit, his mind with our mind, and fellowship with us. Mind-blowing. That's my prayer. He said we'll just be open to him. That our hearts will be the sanctuary of the living God. Thanks for listening today.